So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Non-chicken nuggets. Non-chicken nuggets. But they're made to emulate the taste of vegan nuggets. Sounds tasty.
Hello, hello. Welcome to How to Make Podcasts with Descript. Happy Wednesday, Harmony. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Nice to see you. Hey, Christiana. How's it going?
So far, so good. I always love the podcast events because we get to watch the video where he eats the nugget at the end.
I love it. I was like, oh, this is a new video, and I just realized I hadn't seen it in a while.
Yes, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, someone said I'm hungry. I hope lunch hour is after this for most of us. But hello, welcome. I'm Christiana. I'm a community manager here at Descript, and I'm joined by Harmony, our wonderful customer success manager and product specialist. Harmony is going to be our guide today as we dive into how to make podcasts with Descript. We're going to cover a lot of ground, mostly audio, but we'll also throw in some video workflows for you there. And I'm really excited to learn alongside everyone today. I'm going to do some housekeeping and show off the agenda so you know what to expect. But as I'm doing that, please let us know where you're tuning in from and also what your podcast is about. Or if you haven't started it yet and you're just here to check things out, maybe what you're thinking you want to create around. It is International Podcast Month after all. So
timing is right.
Little fun fact for you. Okay, great. So this is what we're going to cover today. So we will show you how to import, transcribe, and record your media with Descript. We'll show you how to correct your transcript and all the magical ways to do that faster. We're going to cover editing using the script, the timeline, and the canvas, and that's probably where we'll bring in those video elements for you. We'll show you how to pull selects to do lots of cool stuff, including making promo videos and how to actually promote your content, adding intros, outros, and music, collaboration, so how to work with other, maybe an editor or whoever else, and then of course publishing and exporting, how to actually get your stuff out of Descript to share it with the world. Awesome. Use the Q&A section for questions. As usual, we have our wonderful support hero Marcelo in the Q&A, and he will be answering questions galore. He's your go-to, so throw those in there. If you send them in the chat, I will hit a little button and they'll go to the Q&A. So if you're like, what happened to my question? Check that out. And then use the chat for your reactions, your commentary. I'll be checking that out. We have Ariel hanging out in the chat as well, also on our community team. So don't be shy. Say hi over there. Most of you are watching in Crowdcast right now. If we freeze, refresh your browser. That normally does the trick. But we're also streaming to YouTube right now. Hello, friends at YouTube. We see you too. We see your chat. So you can always jump over to YouTube if Crowdcast is giving you trouble. And YouTubers, use your chat for your questions and we'll get you sorted there. This session is recorded. All of our events are recorded. We'll send it out to you in the follow-up email. But also you can find this recording and every other live stream recording we do on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist for our live events. So if you leave this saying, I need to learn even more Descript, there's probably like 3 days worth of content you could just binge. Maybe not as good as Netflix, but if you're just hungry for some content, go check it out. If you need more help, help.descript.com is your bestie. I'm there all the time. Go check that out. And then, of course, join our Discord for community support. 15,000 plus creators in there, Harmony.
Yeah.
That's crazy. A year ago, I think we've like doubled. So that's so awesome. Definitely join us there. There's a little button to click on Crowdcast if you want to join us, but I'll pull up a code in a second as well. And then last but not least, if you're a new or free user, you can use podcast 30 at checkout, and you will get a month of free Descript Pro. We'll send this in the follow-up email as well if you don't have time to scramble and write that down, or you can scan this QR code and that will take you to checkout. Okay, that's my housekeeping. Let's see. One more time. Yes, this will be recorded and available in the follow-up email. So awesome to see what everybody is doing their podcasts about. Lots of awesome stuff. Cool. Welcome. And for our newer folks, welcome to the podcasting world. Welcome to Descript.
Yeah.
So happy you're here. Matt said, mostly I'm learning the proper way to pronounce Descript. No comment.
That's a spicy one, Matt.
Matt, we can't help you there. It's really up to you. I say both, often in one sentence. Like I'll swap. So, whatever feels right. But Harmony, did I miss anything? Anything else we should cover before we jump in?
No, I mean, I think this was a great overview. And I think, to your point, like we're going to be focusing mostly on audio workflows using Descript today. And we're not going to spend a ton of time on the recording piece, but one really exciting bit of news, if you missed it a few weeks back, Descript and Squadcast, a state-of-the-art remote recorder, have joined forces. So you can be recording in Squadcast and easily bring it over into Descript. Super excited. As Christiana mentioned, Ariel's in the chat from the team, and we're just so excited to be working with this amazing group of superhumans.
Yes, seriously, and it is such a workflow unlock that really cannot be understated. And it's you maybe said this, but I'm going to repeat it. It's free. You now get remote recording for free with Descript. So big game changer.
Oh, Christiana, I think we just lost your audio.
Oh, no.
And you're back.
I think I maybe like hit something with my arm in my excitement talking about free remote recording. But Marcella was dropping stuff in the chat for you to check this out if you haven't already. Yeah, it's just a really exciting thing for the podcasting world. So cool. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, welcome. Tell us what your podcast is about. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And we're gonna jump in just a bit. Karen just asked, will you speak about moving from Squadcast and Descript? I've done this but had trouble. No, we won't be doing that today, but we did do that last week or 2 weeks ago. And it was last week.
It was last week. Yep.
Yes.
Rock and I, we had an hour and a half session. So it's a great question. The first half is really covering the workflow in Squadcast. So what it looks like to set up your account, set up your different shows, which is a really nice way of managing different content, setting up guests. So check out the first half of that. And then the second half, the nice thing is that as soon as you finish your recording in Squadcast, there's a little button down in the workflow section that says edit in Descript. Going to click that button. You can select which tracks you want to bring over into Descript. And that's the part that I'm going to be showing you today. Once I have those files, what do we do with them?
Perfect. Cool. Okay. Sweet. I think with that all said, I think we can jump in, Harmony.
Outstanding. Well, let me go ahead and share my screen. And I think like before we dive into actually like importing and making some edits, I usually like to start here in the Drive view and talk a little bit about organization in terms of how you're structuring all of your folders and all of your projects. And especially if you're working on narrative podcasts, organization is super key. I get this question all the time. Like, I'm working with a ton of archival footage. What is the best way to organize it? So if you're working in a multi-series or anything that's like a limited run series, or you just have a ton of audio from ton of different interviews, it's usually best to set up a folder structure that's going to work best for you, and especially if you're working with other team members. Um, so whatever it might be, whether it's a specific year or in this case, I created this narrative podcast folder, and so from here, I might come up with an organizational theme that works for you and maybe other producers you're working with. So in this case, I might create a folder for interviews A through F, and then another one interviews C. And then that way, it's just going to make it really easy later on when I need to go in and search. I might search for a specific keyword. That way, I'll be able to pinpoint which specific projects it's in. And that way, that'll allow you to create this nice library of all of your tape and media without overloading a single project and hitting some performance issues. But again, it also helps with the searchability if you set up that folder structure in advance. And then the cool thing is that you can star these. So if I know I'm going to be working in this interviews A through F folder pretty frequently, I can star it. And then that way I'll be able to have quick access to it over here on the left. I'm trying to think. Let's see here. Christiana, any other like sort of best practices you'd like to touch on when setting folders up?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty key. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough like how important it's been for me to learn, like Marcelo calls it, digital cleanliness.
Yes.
It makes it so much easier to navigate around your work. And yeah, the Descript drive is helpful in that way. So yeah.
Nice. And also super helpful again for other members of the drive. So if you need to, let's say if I need to add Christiana here, I can Christiana as a member of the drive, and I can give her either editor, which is a paid seat, or basic access, which is a free seat. And then I'll invite Christiana. She'll get a invite. She can join the drive, and then anything that we create in this live events workspace we'll be able to collaborate on, versus if I have something that's maybe a work in progress, I'm not quite ready to share it with Christiana yet, I can keep it in here. And then once I've got something that's ready to share, I can then move it over into that drive workspace.
Totally. Harmony, maybe really quick, could you explain what the difference between a basic seat and an editor seat would be?
Yeah, great question. So a basic seat, think of it as you can view, listen, and comment on projects, but you're not going to be able to edit them. So more of this collaborator role. Versus an editor, this is like the all-you-can-eat buffet access. You can upload, record, transcribe, edit, export, essentially everything that I'm showing you today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great question.
Awesome.
Cool. And then once you're ready to actually get started, you're going to see this new button up here in the top right-hand corner. So let's say we've just recorded something in Squadcast and I've downloaded those files, or if I've recorded in a different software, I'm going to hit New. And this is going to create a project. So best practice here, I generally like to create a new project per episode. Once again, going back to like, hitting performance issues, we don't want to overload our projects with too much stuff. So again, project per episode. And then from there, we're gonna create some selects later on, create some audiograms, and build that project out. As you can see, there's a couple of different ways to get started. Let's say if you have a video podcast, you would select video project. For today, I've created an audio project. You'll also see this option to create a quick recording. I use this instead of sending emails. Sometimes you can record a screen share or a video message and then share it real quick. And then this remote recording option, this is an entry point into using Squadcast. So if you don't already have a Squadcast account yet, you can select this option and you'll be able to connect to Squadcast from here. Just follow the prompts that you get when you select that.
Nice.
All right. So I already created a new audio project in advance. So I'm going to go in here, and what we've got, I've imported some files, but I want to show you how I did this from scratch. So I'm going to create, this is what we call a blank composition. It looks a lot like a blank Word doc. And so you've got some prompts here in terms of how you can get started. You can pull in existing files. You can start recording. I like using the recording feature like for quick scratch audio, or if I want to like talk through maybe an intro or outro, I'll just use that, and then it'll transcribe automatically in here. You can also write. So you can use this as a writing tool. So you could script out an entire episode and then replace it with the media later on. Just hit escape to get out of there. And then lastly, we also have templates. We'll get into those a little bit later on. Right now, these are mostly optimized for video content, but this is where we'll access our audiograms as well later on. So I'm going to title this one, again, Digital Cleanliness. Make sure you come up with good naming conventions here. I'm going to do raw interview. And I'm just going to pull 2 files off from my desktop. So I'm going to select both of them at the same time. That's super important. You don't want to drag them in one after another. You want to select both files. So I have a file for JP and a file for J, and I'm dragging them in. Just drop them right into this zone here. Step 1 is we want to transcribe it. So this conversation was in English, so I have my default language set to English. But the great thing is that if you have interviews in different languages, you can select that language. I think is it 23 languages now, Christiana?
That's right, 23.
Awesome. So set your language, and then we're going to hit transcribe. And then this next step is super important. We do we add what we call speaker labels, and this is a nice way of easily identifying who's speaking when we get our transcript returned to us. So in this case, I know that this track is J and that this track is JP. If for any reason you get a couple of files and they're not named correctly, if you're like, who is this? I have no idea. You can select how many speakers there are, and then you'll be able to listen back to that track and identify who that speaker is. Last step, make sure you're checking this off, combine into these 2 files into a multi-track sequence. What this essentially does is it creates a container for these 2 files, and it's going to allow me to go in and manipulate and edit the tracks individually. Comes in handy when there's crosstalk, background noise, or if I just need to go in and make some more fine-tuned edits. Say done. And now we've got our script. So this, I'm just going to play this real quick, and we can kind of get into some editing basics here. How about we go from here?
I had flicked off the recording screen itself. I was on your LinkedIn. So yeah, picking up here again. You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jay LaBeouf. Jay is the head of...
Cool. So if we noticed that they had a little bit of a convo picking up like as soon as they pressed record. So what you can do is highlight the text that you want to get rid of and just hit delete. And now our interview starts here.
Yes, today.
Whoops, go back to the beginning.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine.
Cool. I'm going to undo that. So right out the gate, one of my best practices is using the ignore function instead of doing a full delete. So you'll notice that when you highlight a range of text, you'll get this script toolbar. There's a bunch of different things that you can do in here, but the first thing I want to point out is the ignore function. So what that's going to do is it's going to ignore that audio, but you'll still see the text in the transcript. So it'll allow you to track your editorial decisions as you go through. And actually, I'm gonna jump to this other composition because this is the full length interview. This one was only about 3 minutes, so I'm gonna label that accordingly here. And we're gonna rename that. And so now we're going to jump to this full length one. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ignore that first section. And the keyboard shortcut, Command Delete or Control Delete. Love those keyboard shortcuts.
Mhm.
Nice. And then one thing I noticed down below, Jay was talking about isotope, and I noticed that it was spelled incorrectly. I think it was
Mm.
they spelled it IAS. So I'm gonna find where that is. I'm gonna use a search for that. Okay, so it's coming up 3 times. So want to correct this. So what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and find and we're going to correct the transcript. So this is a nice way of doing this in a bulk fashion. I'm also going to show you how to do this on a one-off basis as well. So I'm going to say correct and proper spelling here. Oops. And then we're going to do correct all. There's kind of like a find and replace option there. Now, alternatively, I noticed, let's see here, I'm going to scroll back up. Jay's last name, we need to fix that. We need to capitalize the B. So I'm going to go ahead and select just Jay's last name. And then I'm going to use the C key or this quick action here. And we just need to capitalize that. So the important thing here is that when you highlight that text and use the C key, that allows you to fix the transcript without affecting the underlying audio or video if you have it too later on. Whereas if you're just highlighting text, deleting it, that's also affecting that underlying audio as well. Christiana, anything else around like correcting the transcript or any other sort of tips that we should touch on here?
Let's see. Have you touched on the transcription glossary yet?
Oh, that's such a good segue.
Cool.
So Christiana mentioned one of our. So I like to think of these as like AI Easter eggs throughout the app.
Yep.
So we use AI transcription, and that's why it's so fast. For about every hour of audio that you bring into Descript, it'll transcribe in about 3 to 4 minutes. And so if we go down to our tools here, go to transcription glossary. So this is a great way of training the AI to make it smarter. So for example, it usually does not get my last name right. So I'll put that in. I'm going to go ahead and put in maybe Christiana's last name as well. Put in Descript. Also Marcelo. He is our hero. So if you have common terms, acronyms that you use on your show, and you notice that the AI misses it, this is a great way to improve that overall accuracy. Generally, you'll get, the better your audio quality, the better your transcription rate's going to be. You'll generally get around 95%. So this is one of the ways you can get closer to that 100% accuracy. I'll say done. And the nice thing about this glossary is that if you're working with other folks that are on the account, it gets shared amongst the entire team. So once you add it in here, you're kind of one and done.
So good if your show has a bunch of jargon in it as well. And yeah, so handy.
Absolutely. And then from there, let's say I want to tag in Christiana. Maybe we want to be essentially kind of editing this together, or maybe Christiana's working on this shorter, like 3-minute version. I can simply highlight a range of text and you'll see this comment option here. I could say like, hey, so Christiana would have to accept my invite to the drive, but I could say, just use the @ symbol there. And then I could say, should we add music here? And then Christiana, once I mention her, she'll get a notification that she's been mentioned in this project, can pop in, and we can have a full-on back and forth conversation, just like you would in Google Docs. And we can essentially kind of edit this down together. She could also be in a separate composition, like scripting out something. So it's a lot like being in a Google Doc together.
Exactly. Yes. And I just accepted your invite, Harmony. So
amazing. So let's
see if it worked in real time.
There we go.
There I am. I'm in.
And another thing around collaboration too, we do have a Slack integration. So if you add that, you can get those notifications in Slack as well. When you get mentioned, when someone shares a project with you when you get added to an account. So that can help with overall collaboration if you want to add us on the Slack. Cool. Let's talk a little bit more about editing in the script. So one thing that I like to do is first like look at the sort of top of the interview, make sure we've kind of like removed the cruft so that we have a clean intro. I can do the same, like scroll down to the very end. And cool. So thanks for having me. I think we'll want it in there. So I'll just get rid of that last part. Cool. And again, just Command or Control Delete to ignore. Another thing I like to do is go up to this magic menu here. I'm going to go ahead and remove filler words. This is one of my favorite features. It's going to find all of the ums, ers, you knows. And in this case, if I click on all filler words, it's pointing out, okay, actually, we don't need to worry about all the but you knows. So I'm going to unselect all. Let's do just the repeat offenders here. Cool. And again, I can choose to either delete them. And in this case, I'm going to ignore them because maybe I want to take this, hand it off to a sound designer, and they maybe do a final review. There might be a few instances where we don't want to remove some filler words and we would want to unignore that. And the great thing is that Descript is a non-destructive editor. So even if you remove something, whether it's deleting or ignoring, you can always get it back. So in this case, I'm going to remove all. Cool. And that removed 103 filler words. From here, let's maybe take a listen and see how this did. Let's go from here. So we have this removed right there.
For the past 21 years, but it has never felt like that. So I got my career started by studying.
So just kind of seamlessly jumps over that. One other thing I'd like to note, this is a newer feature here. So if I do a full delete, you'll notice if I highlight this range where I have that edit point, if I go to replace, I can use our regenerate feature, which is so handy because sometimes like even with the most sort of fine-tuned edit, like there's still some things that just don't sound or feel right in terms of pacing. So regenerate, I like to think of this as like smooth edits. Christiana, do you have a favorite way of explaining regenerate?
I think of it in my head as Mr. Clean's magic eraser for audio.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone has ever experienced the joy of using a magic eraser on like something that just won't come out, and it just happens. Like it feels magical, and this is what that feels like to me. Just like edits that were never possible before to make actually sound good to the ear are now possible.
I'm really loving that analogy. I'm gonna have to borrow that if you don't mind.
Please.
So use regenerate as you need to, especially when and if things get a little crunchy. This can save the day. The other thing that can also save the day is, in this case, our audio is sounding pretty clean. We're using good microphones. But in the case of where, there's background noise or the interview that you've pulled was outside and you need to get rid of that noise, over here on the right, I'm going to select a range of text so we can get our properties panel up. You're going to notice this audio effect that's called studio sound. And what this is it's a speech enhancement / background noise removal. So it's going to make it sound like you're in a nice studio with a great microphone. Generally, when I turn this on, depending on the original quality of my audio, I'll adjust the intensity. Usually around, if the audio is already pretty good, I might have it sit somewhere between like 70 and 80% because we don't want it sounding too over processed. But this is a great way to fix that initial audio so you can get it up to the sort of studio standards. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, we had a question on that I think is well timed, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Someone asked, my Descript question is how to get the most out of studio sound. It seemed to work better before, and now the sound is quite crunchy after applying studio sound. And I feel like what you just said about if my audio is already pretty good, you decrease the intensity, because I noticed that.
Yeah, I've noticed because I record everything, or for the most part, everything with my Shure microphone, my MV7, and so generally, yeah, I've experienced that where it sounds a little too overprocessed or a little crunchy in your words. So I might even dial it back even a little bit further, maybe somewhere between like 50 and 60%.
Mhm.
The other thing to just sort of watch out for is that, let's say you're in a scenario where you've recorded with a colleague, and let's say my audio is pretty good, but maybe Christiana, maybe she was recording with like her built-in microphone on her laptop. What you can do, and this is the benefit of recording speakers on separate channels, is under the hood, if we right click, remember at the very beginning, we created that sequence. So in this case, I might want to only apply studio sound to Jay's track, and JP is actually sounding good. So I can switch it off on JP. So that way it's only processing on Jay's track.
Great call.
And then to get out of that view. Yeah.
Nothing is jarring for the listener for a host that has like the crispest audio you've ever heard, and then the guest is like clearly in like the back of an Uber. Like
No, totally. I was talking to my dad about this the other day too. We were talking about podcast movement, and everyone's jumping into video, and he's like, well, in my opinion, like the first come, like you've got to have good audio. Like he's like,
Yep.
I don't care what's on screen, the audio has to be good. It has to be
Totally.
listenable first. So we want to make sure we dial that in, and then layer in other visuals a little bit later.
For sure. Absolutely. And one thing I just want to make sure we add, if you do what Harmony just said and you change the intensity and something's still sounding weird, like you can maybe assume that you're hitting a bug, and the best thing to do then would be to submit a ticket for our support team so that we can check that out for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go in the top right hand corner, contact us, and that'll take you directly to open up a new ticket with our amazing support team.
Yes, we love them. And then Harmony, really quick, when you were showing the different tracks, like JP's versus Jay, could you show how to get there? I think some folks haven't seen that before.
Absolutely. Yeah. So true to Descript, there's always a couple ways to do the same thing or get to the place that you're trying to go to. So one way is just simply right clicking on the script, and you'll see this option to edit sequence, or there's a keyboard shortcut for this as well. You can also, down in the timeline, this is a good segue to talk about the timeline as well. If we go down here, double click, that'll open up the sequence view.
Cool.
And we can zoom in, zoom out. And then once you want to get back to that script, just click on done, and that'll take you back to that project view.
Awesome.
So yeah, good segue. This is a good opportunity to talk about the timeline. Generally, once I pull in really anything, whether it's an interview, a short clip, video, I'll do about like 80% of the work in the transcript to get my rough edit down. And then usually down in the timeline, if something feels a little quirky here, so I'm going to zoom in right where he said, wait a minute. So I'm going to zoom in real tight here and see like how this is sounding.
And really thinking, wait a minute, there are people.
So in this case, I might want to extend this clip out just a little bit so that the timing feels a little bit more natural. So I'm going to hover here down in the timeline, click, drag right. There we go. So I'm going to zoom in even a little bit further. Thinking, there we go. Maybe a little bit easier.
Really thinking like, wait a minute.
There we go. Cool. So when you need to go in and make those fine-tuned edits, the timeline is definitely the place to do that. You can also do things like adding crossfades, and you can, as you saw here, hide or show the timeline. And over here on the right, you're going to have some actions here where you can use the select tool to jump to a specific point in time in the timeline. So just click and jump to that point. You can use the blade tool to create edit points. So if I want to make a cut here, cut there, And then maybe I want to just remove that range completely, select it, delete it. I can also use the range tool to do something similar where I want to select that range and maybe delete it. Or once I select that range, then I might want to replace that with a gap clip. The nice thing is that Descript can generate AI room tone based on the files that you've uploaded. So if you want to add in, let's say, a little bit of silence here, just click on that word bar, and that will generate that a gap clip with AI room tone.
Awesome.
And then the last two here, slip. This is super helpful if you have longer form content you need to slip through. So for example, you can just click, drag, slip through that tape right there. And then last, you've got the hand tool. This allows you to move up and down throughout the timeline. And then you'll always be able to see in the center the time code where you're at. So I know right here I'm at almost a minute in of a 21-minute interview. All right. Christiana, how about we pull some selects?
Let's do it.
Cool.
Let's do it. But before we even jump in there, Harbini, what is your workflow for like approaching editing with these different places to do it? Like, do you hit filler words first and then jump into the timeline, or what's your
Yeah, generally what I like to do is I'll pull in my interview material. I'll go through and decide. I might know that there's large chunks that I just want to completely eliminate. So if I know here, maybe Jay was like, actually, I don't want to include that section. If he gave me those notes in advance, I might just go in there, remove them. So I'll go through, remove any like large chunks. I'll check out the beginning and the end, and then second, remove filler words. I'll look for also word gaps. Like, so if there's long pauses, let's say we're in an interview, Christiana, and like my dog's barking and I got to jump out of the room, I can say like, look for anything longer than like 5 seconds, and then shorten it down to, maybe a couple seconds. So that'll just speed up that process as opposed to having to go down into the timeline and search for all of those moments in time.
Totally. Cool.
That's generally my process. And then we get into later on, like adding in maybe an intro, adding some music. At that point, we're like maybe 70-80% of the way there into the process.
Totally. Cool.
How about you? Anything? Did all of that resonate well with you? Anything else you do differently, Christiana?
Yeah, I'm always script first, and I try to get through as much stuff I can do there to make it easier when I get down to the timeline. Yeah, that's my workflow.
Totally.
Cool.
Well, let's go
right,
ahead
selects.
and let's pull some selects. So I remember there's a point in time where I'm going to find a specific word Jay mentioned. He's talking about his time, I think at ISETO or Avid. There it is. He said, that was my spark. I knew I needed my engineering chops. So I'm gonna grab, let's actually do that sentence in these 2 paragraphs. So I can do this in a couple different ways. One is if I'm just doing like a one-off select, I like using this duplicate to function, and I say new composition, and we'll see what that does is it's pulled a new composition just of that selection. So I'm gonna go ahead and retitle this. J select. So now the nice thing with this composition list, I can dock it over here on the left. So if I want to be able to easily go back and forth between my select and then maybe my longer interview here, I can navigate easily like so. The other way that we can do this is, let's say Christiana and I want to pull selects at the same time. I can go ahead and highlight. You're going to see this highlighting option here. So maybe my highlights are going to be in mint, and then maybe Christiana's are going to be in a different color. And different studios, they'll come up with like different colors for different types of tape that you might want to be repurposing for later. Maybe like violet is for social, green is for like longer clips that you're extracting for later on. Cool. So I'm going to pull those. And then what I can do is, oops, I meant to do a different color here. And let's do sea glass. And we're going to go to the magic menu here. And I'm going to copy these highlights. I'm going to say all highlights. And let's create a new composition. And just actually, I'm going to drop this into the select here that I already have. And we're going to Command V or Control V, and then that's brought over those selects. So you can do this a couple different ways. That first one that I showed you, duplicate to, or using those highlighting features. Since I already pasted this in, I'll get rid of that duplicative audio there. Cool. Now from here, I could take this and turn it into an audiogram. So this is maybe a good opportunity to point out the template library here. Over here on the right, I've got this gallery, and these are pre-made templates for you. You'll notice the drive and private, these are also custom templates that I've already created. But if we go to the gallery, go into audiograms, and you can create your own customized audiograms as well. These are just, if you need a little inspo, this is a good way to get started. So maybe I'm liking, let's take that one. Let's grab that. And so you'll notice once I select an audiogram, that introduces a couple new surface areas. One is our canvas over here on the right. So this is where we see all of our elements. We've got our caption, we've got our logo, we've got the background image, which we could totally change. Maybe we want to change this to purple. And then over here on the left, we have what we call our scene rail. And I like thinking about scenes. Scenes get introduced once we start working with video and new layers and layouts. And I like to think of these as like slides in a presentation. It's a way to create like discrete segments in your content and then layer in visual elements. So if, for example, like here where Jay's talking about Avid technology, I'm going to add a slash. And here, maybe I want to pull in like an image of like working in a music studio or something. I can go up into our stock media library. I'm going to go find, oops, that kicked me into write mode. Let's try that again. Go. Cool. Let's find something snazzy here. Let's do, this looks good. So I'm going to select that, and I'm just going to bring that into scene 2. So now what we'll see is, I'm going to wait for that to load in. Cool. And I might want to, if I right click on this layer, I want to change the layer order so that I've got my captions at the front. So I'm going to send that backward. Cool. So now in scene 1, it'll go from here where we had our original layout.
So through that journey, my dream job coming out of grad school at Stanford was to work at DigiDesign at the time. It's now Avid Technology. This is the company that makes Pro Tools. And for those not familiar with it,
and once in here, I can, if I want to change, let's say, maybe the size of this, maybe I want to stretch it out a little bit. I could have it take over the entire screen. And again, I might want to change that layer order sent backward. And again, I could layer in like music or other logos, but it's just as easy as adding a slash and then layering in whether it's B-roll, images, music, and more. Cool. I know we're coming up sort of in the last 15 minutes. Christiane, I know we wanted to talk about like how to add music and publishing and exporting, but seeing any questions jump out at this moment?
There's a few questions that I think, some of which we'll hit and some we can save for the end for like a speed round.
Okay.
But there is one, there's a conversation happening in the chat that I definitely want to acknowledge around Descript's focus on audio versus video, which is relevant because we just talked about video here. And yeah, I believe it was Matt who asked, is the direction for Descript to focus on video content? It feels a lot like audio only projects as a use case are deprioritized.
Oh, Christiana, you just went on mute. Hey.
My mic keeps coming unplugged. Sorry, everyone.
No worries.
Yeah, like with templates, for example, they're video focused, and it's a great question. And Harmony, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've heard the audio. We want some audio templates as a feature request we've heard before, and I think
Absolutely.
considering it, and we've definitely talked about it as a team.
Yeah. But Matt, I totally, I'm sorry. I hope it was Matt.
Yeah, it was. I
Um,
think. Yeah.
Holistically, like I totally hear you with regard to this concern. Historically, Descript, we were first an audio editor, and we got really strong at that. Like, our initial set of members are podcasters, they're podcast studios, and over the last couple of years, we saw the need for teams that were saying like, hey, we're also starting to dip our toes into video podcasts as well. We wanted to get video up to the same caliber or level that audio was at. So definitely not deprioritizing audio. If anything, it is still very much the like constant heartbeat of the app. Like you can't do any of what we're showing here without that audio, right? So it's more of just we're trying to get video up to that same level. Couple of things though for audio only workflows that's important. Let's say if I've created something where maybe I mistakenly added in some video, and if I want to just switch this back to audio only, I can go up here to the Descript logo, file, set composition to audio only. So can do that. I'm gonna undo. Another important thing to mention as well, in our settings, you can set your default project type to audio or video. So I think this
Mhm.
is key, especially when getting set up, so that you already have that default project type set up.
Yep.
So yeah, Christiana, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but how would you, any other
No,
feedback on that question?
that was really well said. +1 to all of that. And I wrote this in the chat, but yeah, this is something we've heard in the last few months. Is Descript forgetting about the audio only use case,
No.
and could not be further from the truth. We released Regenerate and a handful of other really powerful audio focused AI features. That was for our audio only podcasters in mind. And, we also just acquired a remote recording company. So that I hope that underscores our continued investment in audio creators. Like Descript is a podcast pro, like we podcast fans. We have so many podcasters within our own company, so just know that your voices are listened to. And yeah, I feel like we're doubling down on the audio stuff. We're here for that community. So
and please reach out if I know we're trying to cover a lot in an hour. Sometimes for me, when learning a new app, like I always defer to like I don't know what I don't know. So
right.
Descript goes very wide and very deep very quickly. And so if you feel like you have a knowledge gap somewhere, just reach out to us. Marcelo is he does office hours every week.
Yep.
Ton of help resources, or book some time with me. I'm harmony@descript.com. Reach out to me. We can powwow.
Awesome. Love it.
Oh, and the Discord channel as well.
Of course. Yes. I'll pull up you can scan the QR code, folks, and you can join our Discord. Office hours are happening in an hour, by the way, with Marcelo. So, but we digress. Let's keep plugging here. And
Should we add a little bit of music at the front of this?
Let's do it. We love music.
Cool. So you could do this in a couple different ways. Let's say you already have your music sourced. You can just drag it in to the interface. You can also use our lovely built-in stock media library. Everything's fully licensed here. So you've got some music and sound effects. I want something chill. And it'll find some examples for you. Let's do what's good. All right, I'm liking that. So you can go through and audition those. I'm going to just pop that in at the very top. And we'll see that media load down in the timeline. We'll see that added track shortly. But we'll also see a little pin track here up here as well. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit in our timeline. And I'm going to add a little bit of a gap right at the beginning so we can hear our music come in before the start. So just, I'm going to expand this a little bit. Click on the word bar. We're going to we need the select tool. And we're going to add about 3 seconds. Okay. And let's see how that's sounding.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine.
Cool. And so one thing I might recommend, like when you add in music, you can add in our ducking feature. So that'll automatically bring the music levels down. You can also, if you right click on the music track that we have in here, you can add in a volume keyframe. So you can do some volume automation in here as well. You can also just select the whole track and bring the dB down here as well. So lots of different ways to kind of go and manipulate in the properties panel once you've layered in some music or even sound effects if you'd like. Cool. Should we talk about publishing and exporting real quick?
Let's do it. Let's hit it.
Amazing. Now that my episode's really coming together here, I'm going to come up to the top right-hand corner and hit the publish button. So you're going to see 2 options, export and publishing. If I go to export, I can get my audio out in a WAV, M4A, or MP3. I can also go in here, configure, make sure, see my settings look right. I can add some metadata if I want. Export, that'll download locally to my machine. I can also export out to timeline. So if you're working with, let's say, a sound designer that needs to do final like scoring or anything else, let's say in Audition or Pro Tools, we play well with others. So it'll take your edit that you've created in Descript, and then since it's non-destructive, once you bring it into, let's say, a Pro Tools session, you'll still be able to go in and peel back on your track if you need to like get a back or a few phrases back. You can also get out transcripts. One thing that we see with a lot of studios that we work with, they'll export the transcript of the show, make it available in the show notes. A couple different formats available here. Get those subtitles out, super important, especially for video content. So you can get SRT or VTTs. And then publishing, this is just a way of doing like automatic publishing to a certain hosting provider. So I could, go directly out, since this is audio only. Maybe I want to go out to Captivate, or maybe I want to send a web link of this for Christiana to review. So what it'll do is it's going to generate a URL that I'll be able to send to Christiana. It'll include the transcript, allow for commenting. And once I publish that, I just need to send Christiana a little link here, and then she'll be able to open that up in her browser and comment, give me feedback. So I really love that publish page option for like a quick review and approval in the workflow. All right, I wanted to leave as much time as possible for Q&A. Anything else, Christiana, around export?
You're awesome. No, that was great.
Cool.
I think we could jump into some cues really quick in case people start dropping off. Just a reminder to join office hours after this with Marcelo. They're an hour after this. Marcelo hosts office hours every Wednesday from at 1 p.m. PT, 4 p.m. ET. So jump in there. Someone asked, what happens there? Live Q&A with Marcelo. It's awesome. So definitely jump in there. And then lastly, we would love your feedback in the poll section. Tell us how you're liking this event. Okay, rapid fire questions now. First up, Harmony, are there sound effects in the stock media library?
I'm so glad you asked. Yep. So go up into the media icon here, and then you're just gonna want to be in the audio tab, and then you're gonna look for sound effects. So if you want like a loud doorbell, I don't know why it's got to be loud. If you're looking for a doorbell, type it in. You'll get some options here.
Awesome.
There you go.
Cool.
And then you just have to click on it, and wherever your cursor is, that's where it's going to drop the sound effect.
Awesome.
And then you can move it around in the timeline or directly in the script too.
Cool. Okay. Do basic users need to download the Descript app, or can they access via their browser?
Short answer is you can access it via browser now because
Mhm.
Descript is available on the web as of a couple weeks ago, I want to say. So the good news is that you can actually even edit as an editor. You can also edit in the web. But yes, just go to web.descript.com and open up a project.
Love it. Cool. Can you favorite your media across projects?
Oh, I love so favorite your media, so like stuff in a media library. Is that the way you're understanding it, Christiana?
I think so, yeah, like their collection of I like to use this a lot.
So we don't have like custom like there isn't a way to favorite certain things in the media library. One thing that you could do is like create a template with specific like sound effects or visuals and then apply it at the scene level.
But I love that as a feature request though.
Yeah.
Um,
I've gotten like, is there a way to create our own custom libraries as well? So it'd be a mixture of like favorited stuff from the stock media library, but then also curated stuff that you have in your own library.
super cool. I love it. Yep. Yeah, Jennifer said that is what they meant. Cool.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Next up here, Harmony, let me know if we can do this live, but
I'll
can
try.
you do an example using Regenerate so we can hear what it sounds like?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. So let's do, okay. I'm just going to create, I'm happy to. So I'm going to fully delete this sentence here. All right. And let's see how this sounds.
Absolutely. I'm happy to. So I got my.
Okay. And for now, I'm actually going to just silence my music so we can. Okay. So now I'm going to highlight this range and we're going to regenerate. And so as it's regenerating, you're going to see it, it's going to turn slightly gray. And you'll also notice down in the timeline, you'll see the waveform disappear for a second as it is regenerating. So we'll give it a second here. The cool thing is that when you regenerate, if you're not happy with the first regeneration, you can try again and keep regenerating until you get it to a point that you're happy. And of course, because I'm doing this live, it's taking a hot minute here.
For sure. It's only right. I knew it was risky to ask, but I figured we could give it a go. But
let's come back to this. I'm guessing within the next minute or so, this will be ready to play.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, I'll hit you with a couple other ones here. Cool. Okay. How to level out audio beyond studio sound, or what's the difference? Is one better than the other? So like the different ways to edit, like repair audio.
Yeah, good question. So one thing you can do, let's say if there's specific like frequencies where in a recording, especially if it's like recorded, let's say on a Zoom recorder or or like little handheld recorder or whatever the case may be, apply studio sound because that'll be kind of like a good base level. But then I also might go into the audio effects and maybe adjust like if you have lower high frequencies, maybe make some adjustments with the EQ.
Cool.
You can also level some stuff out with a compressor as well. We could spend a whole session just on audio effects alone, but
Yeah.
the especially if you're working with like tape where something, there's super high frequencies or low frequencies, add studio sound, and then I would say use a little bit of EQ.
Perfect. Cool. All right. How's that regenerate looking?
Well, of course it didn't. It failed. So I'm gonna.
No problem.
I'm gonna go ahead and try and do it on a different section. So bear with us. But yeah, happy to take some more questions.
Awesome. Great. So we are at time, folks. So if you have to jump, no worries. But thank you. We're going to hit a couple more questions here. Remember, this is recorded. We'll send out the replay. Join Marcelo for office hours. And last but not least, don't forget to score your month of Descript Pro if you're a free or new user. Podcast.
Christiana,
Yeah.
I got it to work. Should we take a listen?
Let's take a listen.
All right. So here, this is where we had made a pretty significant cut. It cut out like a couple of sentences here. So we see on either side of each edit point, it's done a little bit of crossfading as well. So let's take a listen.
Studying electrical engineering, and yet I am one of the worst electrical engineers that there is. It was through that break.
So that sounded all right. I might like try and regenerate it again.
Yeah.
I might also let me go back to that point that there is, and I might just add a little bit of extra buffer time in here as well. So play around with it. It's, maybe just use this on a short like clip to see, kind of dial it in. But that's how you want to use it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, I think we are at time, so I think we can call it here. But just to review, things that came up a bunch is Squadcast. Just to reiterate one more time, so Descript and Squadcast are now one. You get remote recording for free now with your Descript subscription. And if you were a Squadcast user before, you now get that included with Descript for a cheaper price. So go check that out. Marcelo, if you could throw that link again in the chat, that would be awesome. Check out our upcoming events next week. Ariel is hosting one on some 5 podcast workflow game changers. And the week after that, we're doing one on remote recording best practices. So lots of awesome events coming up for podcasters. I'll send those links in the chat in just a bit here. What else, Harmony? What else should I plug?
No, I think you had mentioned when we hopped on earlier, we'll eventually be doing one a session on video podcasting as well. I don't know if you already mentioned that, but yeah, watch out for that event later this month or early next.
Exactly. To start off your fall right with a bunch of live Descript events. And yeah, but this has been a blast. Harmony, thank you so much for being our champion of podcasting today.
Anytime. Yeah, thank you. And these are really great questions. I think I saw like a request, like if we could eventually do a session on audio effects only. I love that. So Christiana will take that back. We'll hopefully get that on the docket.
We take requests. We want to know what people will find the most helpful. So feel free. You can shoot me an email anytime about requests for live events, topics, or anything like that. Shoot me a message on Discord, or you can email me at christiana@descript.com. So brave of me to give my email out, but I trust you guys. So yeah, this was a blast. Marcelo, thank you as always for holding it down in the chat. Hang out with him in an hour on Discord for office hours. And thank you all so much for being here. Happy podcasting. Thank you for using Descript, and we will see you at a future live event.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.